Ever since the beginning of the enormous success of Five Nights at Freddy's, there's been one mystery unlike any other. One that just didn't seem to make sense, no matter how many times we took apart the puzzle and put it back together. Over a decade of effort later, and no significant progress has been made in understanding the FNAF lore's biggest question mark. Golden Freddy. Everything about this guy is speculation. We think we know who possesses him, we think we know where he comes from, we think, but we don't actually know anything about him. Recently, my friend T-Dreads released a big theory on Golden Freddy's identity, and I want to throw my hat in the ring and talk about this character in my own way. Unlike most theorists, my objective today isn't to propose some revolutionary theory that will break the FNAF lore only to slap the word solved in the title and call it a day. No. Instead, I want to look deep into Golden Freddy's origins, everything we know about him, and try to understand why we've never been able to solve his true identity, even though it's been over a decade since we first saw him. I want to try and actually fit the pieces together naturally, with the least amount of speculation possible, and then explain why that's impossible. It's me, WitheredCircle, and it's time to piece together Golden Freddy's mysterious lore. Or is it? I think it's only fair we talk about Golden Freddy's appearance in each game and what made him so captivating to theorists. Yellow Bear, as he is called in his first ever official appearance, FNAF 1, was introduced to us as an extremely rare hallucination that had a 1 in 1,000 chance of appearing. His role in FNAF 1 was simple. He occasionally replaced the West Hall corner poster, appeared in the office, and jumpscared the player. Back in 2014, fans theorized that Golden Freddy was the 5th child that went missing at Freddy's. After all, the newspaper said there were 5, but we only ever saw 4 core animatronics. What if this mysterious apparition was the key? The final 5th victim, the most powerful of them all. Golden Freddy made several appearances in FNAF 2. He'd appear in core gameplay in much the same way his FNAF 1 counterpart did, as a rare hallucination that would jumpscare the player and crash their game. He also appeared in one of the nightmares the player sees between each night, namely the one after night 3, staring at the player menacingly as Bonnie and Chica looked on. And finally, Golden Freddy made 2 mysterious appearances in the Give Gifts Give Life and Save Them minigames, with the former solidifying his role as the 5th victim of the missing children incident, and with the latter making this already confusing mess even worse. Right off the bat, it seemed like there was more to Golden Freddy than met the eye. It felt like he was important to the story in some way, appearing in almost every part of FNAF 2. In this game, he was withered just like the rest of the original characters, implying he was a physical suit, not just a ghost. His appearance in the minigames and nightmares made his role even stranger. It seemed like he was different from the original dead children in some way, separate. More aware, maybe? Come Five Nights at Freddy's 3, and the Golden Freddy mystery was in full swing, quickly becoming the most talked about subject in the sphere, and Scott Coffin, being the visionary genius he is, decided to not put Golden Freddy in the third game. Like, at all. Well, that's not entirely true. Golden Freddy's only full appearance in FNAF 3 was as a dubiously yellow sprite in a partially black and white minigame, The Happiest Day, which showed the original victim's souls being freed. He also appeared in the bad ending screen with one eye lit up. Now, to those of you who are rushing to the comments saying, but he has 2 eyes lit up, first off, you're a nerd, and second of all, you should subscribe while you're down there. I'll be making plenty more content and live streams throughout the month of May, and if you've made it this far into the video, go subscribe as I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers before my 2nd YouTube anniversary. Anyway, it's time for my totally necessary Golden Freddy side tangent. Shortly after the release of FNAF 3, Matthew Patrick, host of Game Theory, settled on the idea that this particular image of Golden Freddy had both of his eyes lit up. Unfortunately for the FNAF community, MatPat has no idea how light and shadow actually work. In the bad ending screen, we can clearly see the 4 main animatronics with their left eyes lit up, symbolizing that they're still present in the physical world, incapable of moving on. And in the back, we see Golden Freddy. And while both of his eyes have light in them, only one of his eyes is actually emitting light. We can see this by increasing the lens flare on the image. Each animatronic eye, each light source has a big circle around it, and Golden Freddy is no different. You could argue the light reflecting off the inside of Golden's head was intentional, but if you actually believe that, then you're just as clueless as MatPat. These hypothetical 2 lights were used as evidence for the theory that the Golden Freddy animatronic contained 2 souls, and that's what set him apart from the rest of the Freddy Fazbear band. And while this was later heavily implied to be the case, this particular instance shouldn't be used as evidence of that theory. But even though we didn't see much of Golden Freddy in the 3rd installment, there was more backstory for him in FNAF 3 than we thought. At the end of FNAF 2, Ralph the phone guy mentions an ancient location called Fredbear's Family Diner, supposedly the origins of the Freddy Fazbear franchise, and FNAF 3 doubled down on this idea. In FNAF's prequel, we're introduced to the concept of springlock suits. These are mascot costumes that can swap between wearable suits and animatronics. Instead of having any safety features, they're basically walking saw traps, killing anyone inside the suit if the animatronic mode is triggered prematurely. This is what happens to that one purple guy in the Follow Me minigames, but he's not important to the lore of the franchise like at all, so instead we'll keep talking about the funny yellow bear. The Stage 1 minigame is the first time we saw Golden Freddy's original form, Fredbear, alongside his counterpart Spring Bonnie. This minigame solidified the idea that Fredbear's was an independent location from Freddy's, and that this was where the mysterious Golden Freddy came from. When FNAF 4 came out and revealed that it was about Fredbear's family diner, theorists were expecting a lot of information about Golden Freddy. But aside from the fact that it became more likely for Golden Freddy and Fredbear to be one and the same, we didn't really get any information in FNAF's final chapter. Sure, we found out that Fredbear caused the bite of 83 and that this location predated Freddy Fazbear's with the purple guy working there, but there was nothing in terms of Golden Freddy content. No explanation, no elaboration, nothing. And this was where the trail ran cold. After Five Nights at Freddy's 4, Golden Freddy stopped having any meaningful appearances in the franchise. No more physical appearances, just subtle references or the occasional sprite in future projects. Sure, Nightmare Fredbear could be Golden Freddy, but there wasn't any important connection that solidified this idea, and that was it. It felt like the mystery of Fredbear was contained almost entirely to the original games. Sure, we got Golden Freddy / Fredbear in Ultimate Custom Night and later in FNAF AR, but those appearances gave us practically nothing to go off of, which means Golden Freddy has basically zero games content after FNAF 4. And this is where my problem with this mysterious animatronic lies. Understanding who Golden Freddy is and why he acts the way he does has always been a theorist's main goal. This is the subject that will get you the most credibility and the most views. And yet, even though a new video on this guy comes out every other day, no one comes close to solving him because he's fundamentally unsolvable. And that's the problem. One of the major debates surrounding Golden Freddy is whether or not Cassidy, the spirit possessing him, is the one you should not have killed from Ultimate Custom Night. And while that's a whole other can of worms that I don't want to get into right now, the reason this debate exists is because Golden Freddy features fairly prominently in that game, with no explanation as to why he's there. And this is the case in all of his appearances. In FNAF 1, he just appears. In FNAF 2, he has a bit of exposition, but it doesn't explain what his deal in the Nightmares or minigames is. Same with FNAF 3 and 4. And this wouldn't be a big deal if Golden Freddy was irrelevant, if he was just another side character or random Easter egg. But no, Scott wants, or wanted, this character to be important. I believe that the story of the original 4 games revolved around Golden Freddy in some way. He was the key to opening the box, the last puzzle piece to put together the story. But since no one managed to crack the code, Scott abandoned Golden Freddy's plot relevance, relegating him to occasional appearances in questionably canon material. But why? Why was Golden Freddy so important? What was it that made him such a key part of the original story, and where did Scott mess up? Well, that's the question I'm going to try to answer. Let's start with everything we know about Golden Freddy. First off, we know he's even more supernatural than the animatronics around him, and that he's capable of teleportation and causing instant death to anyone, as shown in the week before. We know that he's connected to the 5th victim of the missing children incident, and that he was the only animatronic that the puppet didn't give life to. We also know that he and Fredbear are the same animatronic, thus making Golden Freddy a Springlock suit that performed alongside Spring Bonnie, and possibly the perpetrator of the bite of 83. This could potentially explain why he sits limply in FNAF 1 instead of standing like the rest of the animatronic characters in the franchise. It's implied he can shift his appearance as he goes from withered to fixed between FNAF 2 and 1 with no explanation, as well as being able to turn into a giant floating head in the former game. That's about it. Magical ghost Springlock suit thing. What was Scott trying to tell us? Why was Golden Freddy so important? And why was he abandoned after the original quadrilogy? Well, I think that Scott's intention with Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the supposed final chapter, was to reveal the origins of Golden Freddy through the lens of the Crying Child. In the past years, the theory that Crying Child possesses Golden Freddy in some way, nicknamed Golden Victim, has become increasingly popular as part of Golden Duo, which is the theory that the Fredbear suit is possessed by 2 souls, the FNAF 4 Crying Child and Cassidy, the 5th victim of the missing children incident. And I think this connection was what Scott was trying to tell us after the release of FNAF 4. Well, kinda. Another popular theory surrounding the Crying Child is Shatter Victim, the idea that his soul was scattered throughout different pieces of Fazbear memorabilia. This explains some of the paranormal activity in the various Fazbear buildings, like why a set of posters in FNAF 1 can turn into pictures of the Crying Child. This makes his role in the story much more important, making his soul, the first soul whose death was caused by an animatronic, to be the one that binds itself to the legacy of Fazbear. This explains the FNAF 3 Happiest Day minigames and why they appear to represent shattered memories, and why FNAF World has such a heavy emphasis on putting the pieces together. Crying Child is the focal point of the franchise, but instead of dreaming up the whole thing like the game theorists proposed, he's instead scattered across the animatronics into memories of the Freddy Fazbear brand. This explanation has become widely accepted, and there's more evidence that I could get into in a different video. But for now, suffice it to say, this is the interpretation of Crying Child's story I believe. But even though this is what I think Scott intended, and that this is the canon interpretation of Crying Child's story, there's one key aspect missing from this equation: Golden Freddy himself. And this is the real issue with Golden Freddy. We can debate the souls possessing him and what they do all we want, but most theories surrounding Fredbear don't actually involve him. I don't think I've ever seen a theory that covers why Golden Freddy appears in the FNAF 2 nightmares, why he's capable of teleportation, or any of his weird character traits. It's always about the souls, and never about him. And with him seemingly being the main part of the original lore, it being impossible to solve his identity is a huge problem. This is where the FNAF lore's issue with Golden Freddy lies. He feels like a vital piece of the puzzle with his connections to Cassidy and the Bite victim, as well as Ultimate Custom Night's eventual spirit, as well as his subtle appearances in newer content like the Into the Pit game and FNAF AR, but there's no way of knowing what he is without making guesses. While it feels like the era of Golden Freddy ended back in FNAF 4, he's been mentioned over and over again, for example in Sister Location's Custom Night or in both Help Wanted VR games and Security Breach. Who's to say he isn't still relevant? After all, he appeared in Ultimate Custom Night's final cutscene, twitching restlessly out of view. This cutscene is extremely bizarre, and while most people attribute it to Cassidy being connected to the vengeful spirit, I don't think so for several reasons. It's meant to mirror Springtrap's twitching in the FNAF 3 trailer, and while Springtrap got closer and closer to the camera to symbolize his return, Golden Freddy is getting farther and farther away, mirroring Afton and potentially symbolizing the release of the spirit inside Golden Freddy. But we can't know for sure, because we don't know anything about Golden Freddy. My point is that the mystery of Golden Freddy wasn't made clear enough by Scott. He was clearly banking on FNAF 4 being instantly solved by the community. In his own words, "When I released the first game over a year ago, I was amazed at how quickly everyone found every bit of lore and story. Then the same thing happened with Part 2. Fans and YouTubers dug in and found everything. Game Theory did an incredible video on Part 2, getting almost everything right. Then Part 3 came out, and once again the story was uncovered by the community. It seemed that there was nothing I could hide. But then I released Part 4, and somehow, no one, not a single person, found the pieces. The story remains completely hidden. I guess most people assume that I filled the game with random Easter eggs this time. I didn't. What's in the box? It's the pieces put together. But the bigger question is, would the community accept it that way? The fact that the pieces have remained elusive this time strikes me as incredible and special. A fitting conclusion in some ways, and because of that, I've decided that maybe some things are best left forgotten forever. Obviously, Scott continued the franchise, but the mystery of FNAF 4 and Golden Freddy remains unsolved to this day. I think this has a lot to do with the way Scott Cawthon chooses to tell his story, but it's his franchise, and not mine. I can complain about how his storytelling makes me lose my mind on a daily basis, but in the end, it's his story to tell. That doesn't mean I can't disagree with it, however. Overall, I think there's a lot to have to consider about Golden Freddy. My personal interpretation is that his teleporting and paranormal activity is caused by negative emotional energy or agony from Cassidy and Crying Child. Cassidy acts as the guardian of the other missing children, while Crying Child's essence and soul is tethered to the majority of the Freddy Fazbear locations, memorabilia, and animatronics. But, as I've been saying over the course of this entire video, there's no way to know for sure. As for Golden Freddy's potential connection to the vengeful spirit, that's something I'm not too keen on getting into, although with the upcoming Secret of the Mimic game, we'll probably get some definitive answers to the long-burning question of the FNAF book's canonicity in the lore. And watch it, it's gonna be revealed that Andrew is the vengeful spirit. I'll have the last laugh, I promise. But what do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts on Golden Freddy and the souls possessing him in the comments below. This is a debate that's been going on for over a decade, and every little bit helps us get one step closer to our goal of solving Golden Freddy. Just remember to be respectful and to be open to new opinions. I felt like I needed to make this video as a commentary on not only Golden Freddy, but also as a general commentary on the state of the FNAF lore. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.